Great. Well, welcome everyone. So I'm going to start with my typical spiel, just going over MxG. So Maine Accelerates Growth is a statewide network of organizations and individuals that support entrepreneurs and innovators to scale in Maine and beyond. We believe that a vibrant, inclusive innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem will result in a more abundant, equitable, and sustainable economy and make Maine a great place to live, work, and play. We work together to share expertise, seek best practices, and to address system gaps. We promote the successes of Maine startups and entrepreneurs, support organizations, and collaborate to attract talent and inspire innovation. So with that said, so generally the way I'd like to start is just for anybody who hasn't been to an MxG meeting before, or maybe who hasn't been here in a year or so, if you want to just give a very brief introduction, maybe just your name and what organization you're with, that would be great, and then we'll kick it off. So I'll let people just raise their hands if they would like to present. Go ahead, Johanna.
Hi, I'm Johanna Johnston. I'm the Executive Director of Southern Rustic Development Corporation. I didn't even know about this group. I'm kind of new to the business. I started in March, and Jacob Pelkey from NMDC is the one that invited me and sent me the link.
Great. Well, we're so glad to have you here. Eric, I saw you raise your hand.
Yep, I'm Eric Howard. I'm the new director at the Environment and Energy Technology Council. I'm the successor to Marty Groman, who some of you may know.
Yes, awesome. Welcome, Eric. And Lexi.
Hi there, my name is Lexi Doudera. I'm the founder and executive director of Saltwater Classroom. I'm excited to present and share a bit about our exciting developments, particularly our phase 2 for our organization. So I'll save all that for when I present.
Great, thanks, Lexi. Yeah, looking forward to it. Karen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Houseknecht. I'm the Associate Provost for Research at the University of New England, and I'm glad to join today to talk about some of our strategic projects.
Thanks, Karen. Anybody else who, go ahead, Destin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name is Destin DeCambry. I am a micro enterprise specialist through New Ventures, Maine, and I am based out of Presque Isle. So I work in the office. I've been with the company going on 3 months now, so I'm really excited to meet everybody and really get to know this business and all the great people that work for it. So I'm glad to be here.
Great, welcome. Thank you. And Jeanne, did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, I'm Jean Christie. I'm with Congresswoman Shelley Pingree's office. These meetings have been on my calendar forever, and I finally got a chance to sit in and sort of get a sense of how they go. So I'm looking forward to listening today.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else who's new to the meeting or hasn't been in a while? Okay, mostly see familiar faces. Great. So I'm going to give a brief update on the MTI side of things, and then Jake is going to give an update on the DECD side of things, and then we'll kick into our presentations. So just a couple of updates on the MTI side of things this month. The first is, as I'm sure a number of folks might have heard, Maine received a very prestigious designation as a tech hub by the U.S. Department of Commerce in October. As folks might recall, MTI, in collaboration with DECD and GoPIF, submitted an application on behalf of the state of Maine to be designated as a forest bioproducts advanced manufacturing technology hub. And that was approved at the end of October. And, you know, I think Maine was only one of 31 out of 200 applicants to receive that designation. So it's very exciting, particularly because it makes us eligible to apply for between 50 to 75 million in follow-on funding. And that deadline is in February. So I know the team is working hard to get that application in. And then the other update is that MTI is currently undergoing a review of our 7 targeted technology sectors. So folks might know that back in the late 90s when MTI was established, we were designated with supporting 7 different technology sectors in the state. Recently, the legislature asked us to take a look at those sectors and determine whether or not they could be updated. So we've been holding a number of listening sessions over the past week to solicit feedback from the community on what changes, if any, we could make to those sectors. For folks who might not have been able to join, we're also conducting a survey, which I'll post in the chat. Would love to get kind of as much feedback as possible to inform next steps. So that's all from MTI. So I'll turn it over to Jake.
All right, thanks, Tom. A couple updates. One, economic recovery hubs. This is money for businesses that started since January 2020. It's pandemic recovery funding. Just be sure to check with your local EDD, Economic Development District. Everyone's kind of on a different timeline for this. So for instance, Southern Maine Planning is a deadline of December 1st for their initial round. EMDC has January 31st. So just kind of keep in mind whatever your service area is. If you get any questions about the MOVEit global data security incident, I'll drop the press release, which has the call center number, into the meeting notes or the chat, depending on which. But if you get questions about that, you can direct them to the call center. Domestic trade, GPCOG will be hosting webinars every Tuesday until December 12th. That's from noon to 1, kind of like drop-in office hours. So if you have questions about that program, and just a general PSA, I guess flyers have been mailed. This happens every year, every couple of years, to business owners regarding filing their annual reports. If you can just remind business owners that they can file those reports directly with the Secretary of State's office. They don't need to go through another company. I think the mailers basically say, you know, for $200 and something, we'll file it for you and ask for the same information, but you can file directly with the Secretary of State's office for under $100. So just a general PSA of what's out there. And that'll do it for me.
Thanks, Jake. We're a little ahead of schedule. Did anybody have any questions either for me on the MTI side of things or for Jake on the DCD side of things? Don't think I see any questions. Okay, great. Well, in that case, Karen, are you ready to present?
I'm ready to go. I have a few slides. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Can everyone see that? I'm going to put it
Yes.
into slideshow. I'm going to try to put it into slideshow. Come on. All right. My computer is getting stuck. I apologize.
That's okay.
You're not the only one, Karen. At the office, we have Wednesday night updates. So Thursday morning's always tough.
Okay. How is that? Can we see that?
Perfect.
Yes, there we go.
Everything looks good. Okay, well, thank you so much for letting me join you today and briefly update you on some strategic projects that we have going on at the University of New England. And specifically, I want to focus on our new Portland Laboratory for Biotechnology and Health Sciences. So to put this into context, many of you may be aware that UNE is in the process of moving our medical school, Maine's only medical school, to our Portland campus. And these are some pictures. This is the most recent construction picture from this week on the Harold and Bibi Alphonse Center for Health Sciences. And once this is completed next year, all 15 of our health professions programs will be located on the Portland campus. And this is really transformative for UNE and for Portland when we think about healthcare training and delivery. And it also allows us to reimagine what we'll be doing on our Biddeford campus as well. But when we move our comm to Portland and we have this vibrant healthcare education center, we also need research support for this enterprise. And so that's what I really want to talk to you about today. And that's the Portland Lab for Biotechnology and Health Sciences. And when we announced this, the creation of this back in September, I started getting all of these questions around what is it? Where is it? Is it an accelerator? Is it an incubator? What is it? Well, it's actually a collaborative research space that's located in our UNE pharmacy building. And in the past, this research space was dedicated simply to the pharmacy program. And now we've opened it up to researchers across all of our colleges at our university, including our College of Osteopathic Medicine when it locates to Portland. And let me be clear that this is not just a renaming of a space that was already there. This is a very deliberate strategic investment for the university, and I want to talk about that for just a moment. So UNE does have a comprehensive strategic plan. Priority 3 of that strategic plan has to do with focused research and scholarship. I'm responsible for that. And under this, we have several goals. One of them is identifying focal areas of research for investment, recruiting, fundraising, and for our external partnerships. And in this sense, biotechnology and applied health sciences is one of those areas. And also equally important to us, building on our strengths, is increasing meaningful student involvement in research and workforce development. So this new laboratory in Portland is not only aligned with our strategic plan, but it's also aligned with strategies for the state of Maine. I don't have to tell this group that the life sciences and biotech industry in Maine is a growth opportunity. And it's also aligned with investments at the federal level that the Biden-Harris administration is making in the areas of biotechnology and biomanufacturing. So this is the strategic impetus for us to do this. So when we think about, this space, 2 immediate goals for us are to engage with external partners to grow the biotech and health sciences research portfolio, not only at UNE, but across Maine and across the region. And again, to provide meaningful workforce development opportunities for students ranging from undergraduates to graduates to professional students who are interested in careers in biotechnology and health sciences. So what are the spaces? So the spaces are in the pharmacy building, which is now houses not only the School of Pharmacy, but also our physician assistant program. The workspaces relating to research for this laboratory are found on the 3rd floor and the lower level. The 3rd floor has approximately 5,000 square feet of open laboratory space, cell culture facilities, and procedure rooms. Right now, we're running at about 25% capacity of that space. The lower level has a secured laboratory space that could be used for many purposes. It is ideally designed for clean room or, BSL-2 cell culture type space. I'm not going to read this list of key instrumentation in the laboratory, but I think it's important to point out that not only do we have general equipment, molecular and cell biology equipment, we also have state-of-the-art analytical mass spectrometry equipment, much of which was purchased back in the day with supportive funding from MTI. So what sort of research is already going on in this space? We have several researchers involved in this biotech and innovation space in the Portland lab, including Dr. Shane Moeykens, who's a professor in our School of Pharmacy. His work revolves around diagnostic development for cancer. He has 2 issued patents, and he's also the founder of his own company, Sacha Diagnostics Research, and he is doing his work in this Portland laboratory. We also have Dr. Eva Balog. She is from our School of Arts and Sciences. Eva is one of the PIs on a large multi-institute NSF EPSCoR project that's led out of the University of New Hampshire. And this project is focused on biosensor development to support biomanufacturing. And this is a really exciting project. This is a schematic. It shows the 4 universities that are core to this project: University of New Hampshire, Auburn University, University of Wyoming, and UNE. University of Maine is providing economic forecasting. There's an industrial advisory board. And importantly, in addition to the important scientific impacts relating to biotech and biomanufacturing, there's a really significant workforce development component to this project. And I would like to say that this is really a poster child for the type of collaborative work we'd like to grow in this research space. And finally, my laboratory is also in this space. I've been fortunate for the last 14 years to have funding from the National Institutes of Health to conduct drug discovery research with collaborators from University of Arizona, Notre Dame, Southern Research Institute. And we also currently have a cell signaling mechanistic pharmacology program in collaboration with Maine Health Institute of Research. So that's just a quick snapshot of what we have going on. We'd love to talk to you more about this. I am the founding director of the lab, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Was I on time? I was talking really fast.
Up close. We went slightly over, but we were ahead of schedule, so that's totally fine. So if folks have questions, feel free to just raise your hand or do the actual Zoom functionality, and I'll kick us off. So a number of the folks here on this call are affiliated with entrepreneurial support organizations, and I'm just curious, what are some opportunities for entrepreneurs to who might be in the biotech space to interface with the lab?
So we're open to a lot of different possibilities. I will say we are looking for collaborations. We're not really looking to be in the real estate business and to be renting property to companies. Frankly, that's not our strength. That's not really what we do. Having said that, we do have one company working in the lab space right now. I also need to say this building was built with bond money from the state of Maine, and we do have some restrictions on what can be done in this building. So only a portion of this space could be used for commercial activities, for-profit activities, for example. But we're happy to speak with all sorts of organizations about possible collaborations, especially if there are opportunities for students to be involved in some way.
Great, thanks,
Does
Karen.
that help? Yep.
It does. Yeah, that's good. Because one of my questions was going to be, is some of this lab space available for folks? And it sounds like generally the answer is not, unless they're already affiliated with the university.
Well, that's not exactly right, actually.
Okay.
We're looking for potential partners in the nonprofit space and the academic space. The bond issue just makes it complicated from the for-profit space.
Gotcha.
We can do
Okay.
some work there, but we do have some limitations. And again, UNE, we really focus on education and research. And so this isn't a pure incubator opportunity. I just want to be clear about that. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Other questions for Karen? Erica, did you have something? Joe, go ahead.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for stepping up for the invite. This is really good stuff. It's always helpful to hear about the R&D, and in this case, sort of bigger R, little d infrastructure. One comment I wanted to ask or note is, and for anyone, especially the MxG group and anyone who's in this, advocacy for public-private partnership around R&D, what Karen mentioned is something that I have seen, for 20 years since we started MTI up, and that is, I don't know how it can change or if there's a different way to do bonds, but when the state does bonds for research infrastructure, this is a huge hindrance that, not maybe in UNE's case, but I think the feds also have the same. We can't control that, but on the state side, anytime we're going to do an R&D bond, if it could be used and its infrastructure, if we could change the laws or do something so that, maybe not today, but 2 years from now, maybe, UNE or whoever else has some of this money could, welcome in a couple of startups. So thank you.
Any other questions for Karen? Well, great. Well, thanks so much for presenting, Karen. And I saw you dropped your info in the chat. So if folks have more questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you. And yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.
All right. Lexi, are you ready to go?
I sure am.
Excellent.
All righty, I'll share my screen here.
And we're a little ahead of schedule, so you're welcome to take 6 or 7 minutes if you'd like.
Okay. Sorry, I just had to. It's saying I don't have permission, or I don't have the ability, but I think, let me try again.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Hooray. Okay. Wonderful. Again, my name is Alexandra Doudera, or Lexi, the founder and executive director of Saltwater Classroom. Happy to have the opportunity to share about our organization and particularly our second phase, which we're working on currently, and that is a tech integrated approach to ocean education. We were founded in 2018 and have been, working towards this vision since then, with hands-on educational programming, community events, that sort of thing. But this new foray into tech is our phase 2 and really our big goal and our big vision. So again, phase 2. We are hoping to address a range of problems with this solution. The first being a lack of ocean literacy, despite the outsized importance of our planet's oceans as, the generator of half the world's oxygen, the largest single ecosystem, driver of food systems and trade, all kinds of things. Most people have a very base level understanding of the ocean. There's examples of curricula around the world that omits the word ocean entirely. So starting point, it's important that we understand more, coupled with the number of challenges that are facing our oceans. Additionally, this idea of workforce with blue economy, a sector that is projected to grow at a rate 2 times the rest of the economy in just the next few years by 2030, especially true here in Maine. So it's, again, important that we have an ocean literate workforce to fill these jobs. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is ocean education. Existing opportunities have traditionally been limited to privileged communities geographically located near the coast with economic resources to support programs, as well as physical ability to, get to the coast. So we see this as an opportunity to break down some of these barriers, really increase our reach and grow ocean education. Here's some students that we worked with in Mexico in I think 2021, maybe this was. But again, an opportunity to bring students together and connect them as well. So high quality ocean education available anywhere with internet access through a collaborative, easy to use learning platform, allowing students around the world to connect over a shared commitment to ocean stewardship. The SDGs that we address are down below: quality education, climate action, life below water, and partnership for the goals. A little bit more about our solution. So you can see here a mobile phone view. We're building initially as a web-based app just for ease and kind of accelerated development, but it'll look much the same. Geared towards students in grades 3 through 6, kind of 8 to 12 years old or so. But it will be accessible to all. Slight gamification incorporated with progress badges. You complete an activity and earn progress on a badge. So some examples there. Very collaborative. Collaboration is certainly at the heart of our mission. So there will be partner generated content, whether it's with ocean experts, individuals, or fellow nonprofits or mission aligned companies. Very compelling in terms of the design and ease of use. Although facilitated through technology, it will continue to encourage hands-on education and time spent offline. Certainly a concern and something that we're prioritizing. And then again, this global community and global perspective. We see the oceans as an opportunity for people to come together and share over a common love for a species or interest or any number of things. Our starting point, we have a established curriculum. Again, we've been teaching in-person workshops, typically week-long workshops in school classrooms and as summer programs for 5 years now. So we have an established curriculum there that will be the starting point. We've already completed some front-end development, thinking about the user experience and design. We have a network of thousands of students that we're working with. We have our curriculum in Spanish already, and we're continuing to develop multilingually. Our network here in Maine and the blue economy had a proven commitment to this vision as well. I won't get into this too much, but I'm happy to come back to it if people are interested. But a little bit of where we see setting ourselves apart from other alternatives. Whether it's a traditional curriculum that's available to teachers or other in-person programming or app-based alternatives. I sometimes liken this approach to Duolingo, for language learning, but this for ocean literacy. But again, very scalable, widely accessible, collaborative, and encouraging that hands-on education. So the idea for Saltwater Classroom came to me in the fall of 2016. I went to Northeastern for my undergraduate education and was in Chile, a coastal city there, researching urban coastal sustainability, and the power of environmental education really stood out to me as a simple solution, but one that can have real transformative power. At the same time, I was volunteering in a 5th grade classroom. Here's that classroom there. And just saw this opportunity for young kids to learn about the ocean, but connect with one another. In 2018, we did our first program internationally in 2019, started really working in earnest on the app in 2021. And then this year with an article in Maine Magazine about this second phase to kick it off, we've really, again, been fundraising and growing and really realizing this dream, this vision. We're so proud to have the support of Maine Technology Institute. Excited to continue to collaborate and grow here. Again, some of our other supporters, but we also see this as a income generating potential and opens up the door for other technology grants, workforce development grants, that sort of thing. A bit about our team here, board of directors and board of advisors, some of our collaborators. And yeah, that's all I got. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Lexi. Any questions for Lexi? Trying to see if I can see hands with the.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yeah, maybe for now, just it makes it easier to see if anybody's. Well, I'll kick it off because you and I met a couple. Oh, Joe, go ahead.
Joe, kick it off.
I was just going to ask, Lexi, you said something about at the end about opportunity for revenue too, and how are you you're a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
So that's good. I always have that say, right? Like that's a tax status, not a business or sustainability model. So,
right.
So can you explain a little bit about what those opportunities might be?
Certainly. And there's definitely. There's a lot of ways it can go. We're, developing initially with it planning to be free and accessible to all. And I think that is very, core to our mission and will always be. But with that being said, there's, opportunity for like a premium model or partner generated content that could be, a little bit of like a sponsorship or something like along those lines. We've explored the idea of like supplemental curriculum available at a district level, perhaps maybe annually, so that there's, really robust lesson plans and information that supports activities on the app. So those are just a few of the ways we've explored.
Thank you. Feel free to keep in touch with Tom, and it's a great sounding board group here when you get to that stage. Are you working with I see Jonathan here, SCORE, or anybody?
Way a few years ago, we did many workshops with SCORE, but we haven't been involved in a few years. But I'd love to reconnect. And
Yeah,
again,
it
this
might be
is
worth reconnecting on the business visioning stuff. Thanks.
yeah, certainly,
Very
and
cool.
thank you. And yeah, this is a next phase, so I'd love to think like that.
Thanks, Lexi. Jake, go ahead. And also we have a question from Ken, but Jake, you go, and then I'll pose Ken's question.
I was just wondering, do you have any, needs from this group, or like any stumbling blocks that you're working on that we can kind of point you in the right direction, maybe?
Yeah, totally. I think, particularly what we're kind of working on now is areas for growth in terms of implementation. So communities to implement the app and be some of our first users and testers. So that's certainly a point. Additionally, content collaboration. If there's people that have connections or they themselves would like to collaborate on specific content pieces, we're looking for partnerships there. And then, funding support, again, grateful to have MTI behind us. We've recently got funding from the Davis Conservation Foundation and the Francis R. Dewing Foundation, a number of business supporters here in Maine too. So that's always something as well. But
Thanks, Lexi. And then Ken asked where you're going to be located. And I wonder if both in terms of where you're going to be headquartered, but also, what sort of, what's your geographic distribution of your customers?
Yep, certainly. So we're based here in Portland. We have our office at the New England Ocean Cluster, and we're working on getting a bit more of a physical space as well with a partnership with Opbox, who is supported by MTI too, I know. But we will continue to, have Portland be our home base for our initial implementation. We're working with Portland Public Schools and South Portland Public Schools, as well as Lewiston, Auburn area. And, prioritizing, again, schools that might have less access to this. So beyond that, we'll focus on particular areas, kind of little nodes that we have, whether it's folks on our board or that sort of thing, others in our network, to expand outside of Maine.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Lexi. If you want to post your contact info in the chat, just so folks can reach out if they have more questions, that would be great.
I'd be happy to. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're our last presentation is going to be by Shane Moeykens, talking about the Maine Innovation Action Plan. And I see Shane has joined. So Shane, you should be able to share if you have a presentation.
Is that coming through okay?
Yes, indeed.
So I saw that you sent a link out that included a presentation, a standing presentation that's posted at a website, and you sent out the full S&T plan. So I'm just going to try to step through this fairly quickly, assuming that there may be some questions. But to start with, the origin of the plan comes from the Maine Innovation Economy Advisory Board, which has roots back to 2007 and state statute. And this board's kind of two-pronged. It has a focus on driving R&D strategies in the state of Maine. And part of that is coming up with the S&T plan, referred to as the Maine Innovation Economy Advisory or Action Plan, Action Plan, MEAP. So MEAB and MEAP, they're kind of clumsy acronyms. S&T is what MEAP is referred to nationally in most states. So I'll just refer to it as S&T here through the remainder. MEAB itself, the advisory board, attention was brought to it in the 2020 to 2029, the 10-year strategic plan that came out of the governor's office with the recommendation that it be reinvigorated. I worked with MEAB for 8.5 years, and in the last few years, I would definitely describe it as being reinvigorated. There's been a lot of activity relative to the several years prior to that period. And I'll note, I saw coming into the meeting that Karen is here from UNE, and I wasn't aware of that, Karen, or perhaps someone could have asked you to give this presentation, because Karen's been very involved with everything I'm presenting right now. what is the S&T plan in the state? And just paraphrasing it. So I served as the project coordinator on the most recent update, which was completed in spring of 2023. I supported the team that updated it 5 years prior. At that time, it was being coordinated by Martha Bentley at MTI, and it was a big project for her. Appreciated her work. And I realized I didn't raise my hands initially. Let me just say it like that. I was kind of tapped on the shoulder to jump in and help on the more recent update. But this plan by statute needs to be updated every 5 years. And without digressing too much, I was familiar with the 2010 and the 2017 versions. And I had been involved back in Maine, more involved with this for over several years. So when I was asked to help coordinate the update, I recommended that we take a new direction with the plan. The two previous versions, I would refer to them more as economic development strategy type documents. And it is an S&T plan. I personally found the previous updates to be lacking science and technology references. So we tried to close that gap in this most recent update. You can look at the plan, and it's not really a technical document, but it's more aligned with research and strategy decision making, and kind of decoupled from general economic strategy. There are 5 primary goals laid out in the plan. Kate DeLudio was very involved with this update as well. I assume that's a name that at least some of you know. And she helped craft these because we had many goals. They needed to be synthesized and simplified. The top goal is really important. And I have one slide on each of these, but focusing on the percent of GDP in the state being spent on R&D, that's an important metric nationally. But these other goals they're all important. The commercialization pathways, preparing workforce around the evolving sectors in the economy. Climate change is number 4. We couldn't step away from that. That's being emphasized in many of the state plans originating from the governor's office, and then the overall R&D ecosystem. So I'm just going to touch on each of these briefly. The national average for R&D as GDP, fraction of GDP going into R&D is around 3%. We're at 1. We're really, really low. And that's for more than one reason. Some of it's at the state, state government investment level. Some of it's from private sector. And that latter point's really important. I spent a lot of my life working in big global companies, not physically located here in Maine. And driving around, we have many good companies in the state, of course, but we're missing that type of presence from large global corporates with large R&D centers. That's physically not here, and it's a headwind on this type of metric for our state. So we'll never be at 3%, at least in my lifetime, is my personal perspective, but that doesn't mean we can't try to push to at least get to 2% or so. An example of the type of company that this is really important to is Blue Shift. There are many that I could bring attention to. There's a number of companies highlighted throughout the plan that we interviewed in developing the plan. I think this company is a great example in that they had $193,000 in MTI funding. They also had a NASA Small Business Innovation Research Grant. So it's that type of funding that helps companies in early stages of product development and applied research work. Many of you are more familiar with this company than me, but I'm just, basically putting it up here as a good example of the benefits, the companies that might emerge if the state is able to increase its R&D investments. The second goal, I'm not intimately familiar with MxG. I've attended a few meetings over the last year and a half, but I kind of have the perception that the group that I'm speaking to is probably the strongest group of experts in the state for this slide, relative to the slide, and the types of programming that you're all involved with and driving. So I'm not really going to speak to this. What more could be done? I myself and MEAB members probably would love to have engagements with this group and hear about that, because this is a vision document, and I skipped over that detail. In crafting it, it was intentionally established to look 3 to 5 years out, not 0 to 2, because then it starts conflicting with near-term implementation planning being done at the state level or within sectors. This is longer term, which is consistent with a research focus. But now that the plan's out, there's more interest in the implementation piece, and having ongoing dialogue with this group, I think, would be important to realize the vision. Marin Skincare is a great example that I've come across, and I'm sure all of you are familiar. They're based in Portland, and I was reading up on the New England Ocean Cluster recently, NEOC, and these two individuals definitely benefited from that type of environment. So the type of work that this organization, MxG, is driving, I think is essential to realize the overall vision. Goal 3, the innovation workforce. This is hit really heavily in the 10-year strategic plan. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. We didn't want to be silent on it in the S&T plan update. There's a lot of programming of this nature in the state. Is it optimized? Is everything being done for every sector? I'm sure that's not the case. So we need to have ongoing bidirectional engagements and refocusing as we're launching new programs and adapting existing programs. I sit at a university, so obviously this slide's really important to me, at the University of Maine, but there are many nonprofits and even the private sectors playing a significant role in this area. Is it important? For sure. This is a plot from an economist at the University of Maine that's just projecting out job growth. And if we look at 2022 to 2028, the expectation is 6% growth in science and tech jobs and something like 0.3% growth in all of the others. So having people in line with these growing sectors is essential. And we're an aging state, as you're all aware. Goal 4 on climate change. This kind of means lots of different things to different people, even in a single sector. It's especially important for our heritage industries, aquaculture, agriculture, forestry. All of those industries are at risk as the climate warms, and I'm sure you're already aware of that. The types of things that can be done, this again is one of my favorite examples. This is an organization, American Unagi, that came out of Darling Marine Center, and now, I've read that they're building a new $10 million facility in Waldoboro, and I'm not even sure if it's up and operational yet, but Sarah Rademacher. And, why is this important? The fishery sector has been hit very hard since the mid-1980s when I was younger in Maine. And various traditional industries are at risk. Aquaculture's definitely an opportunity to diversify the sector and bring in new income to people already working in that sector. And that's what Sarah's driving here through an idea like this. The ecosystem slide is very broad and hard for me to explain or define. It's kind of all things, but the top bullet in all of the meetings I've had with MEAB representatives is the most important. I understand that it's been difficult in Maine where certain types of funding might be available one year and then not reoccur for a number of years. So companies needing support for R&D investments, it's hard for them to develop their plans around the availability. So if we did nothing else, focusing on the top bullet is a good target. So how, so the plan exists, what should be done with it? Now it's more about the implementation of the plan. I've had feedback from people like the president of the University of Maine that it's not an implementation plan, and I agreed, and I said it wasn't the intent. We're trying to set a 3 to 5 year forecast on what the true opportunities are to help state legislature, governor's office, and others make bets with long-term R&D investments. One, in terms of implementation, something that's current right now, the 3 documents on the right were heavily leveraged in creating this plan. And I know that you're all familiar with those documents, so I won't speak to them. The 10-year strategic plan is going through a 5-year refresh right now. And the governor's office has asked for input from MEAB, and it's all current. I've been running meetings with MEAB and lots of communications by email and whatnot, such that actions can be implemented as part of this 5-year refresh to have more tactical near-term guidance in terms of what the strategic plan is guiding people to do. And the governor's office is asking for the input of MEAB through the Innovation Economy Action Plan. So I've spent a lot of time on that activity just in the last few weeks. And Karen, to you and all the other MEAB members, I'm very thankful for your contributions in that process. Hopefully a memo will be going to the governor's office by the end of day Friday. So I'll pause there. You know, I spoke through that really quickly, but hopefully what I've said verbally helps put some color on it in terms of what the intent is. To make it more challenging, NSF drives a lot of funding in our state, and that document's very important to NSF also. And very recently, NSF has set the expectation with states that they'd like S&T plans to be updated more frequently, and that, to me, seems very challenging because it was a 1.5-year project with 40 to 50 people involved in the last update. So I'm trying to think creatively such that I can advise MEAB on major updates versus minor updates to, yes, keep things a bit fresh, but not at the expense of half the state's population and half our GDP.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Shane. And you did a great job of, I mean, it was quite a intensive report. So you did a good job of covering that in 10 minutes. Any follow-up questions from the group?
Okay, someone else besides Joe.
Yeah, well, this Joe, I'd love to see, nice seeing you, Joe. It's been a long time since we traveled to Arkansas, I think it was, but is everyone here familiar with the S&T plan in the state? Have you ever heard of it? I like to ask that. So some people say yes, some people say no.
Yeah, it's a good poll, Tom. Whip one up, I think. Well, my question was just going to be Shane and some of the MxG crew that was here last 3 or 4 years, which was pretty cross-cutting. I see MVF, Maine Angels, SCORE, a bunch of folks, and there were some focus groups set up, and we talked about this a little when we were down at SSTI in Arkansas last year, and you were just starting this, so congratulations you on getting over the hump. But I was wondering, did any of the recommendations from our focus groups, the MxG focus groups for early and mid-stage innovation-driven tech, work their way into the MEAB meetings? And if not, if it doesn't sound familiar, we have a list of those. And I know Tom's predecessor, Liz, we had presented to some of the MEAB members and DCD and others. So there's some good content, and I do like your idea if others are supportive, and if not, maybe it's a subcommittee of MxG to have a working
Ethan Morris, I'm going up to the consulate.
that helps you do just that, is get down and dirty on it, maybe set some goals up and people adopt some of those. So I love the idea. Thanks for coming. And it was me that planted the seed to have you come in, because even I would only have my hand raised halfway on your question of the S&T plan. Thank you.
We did speak about it at the beginning of this. I remember that, Joe, and my memory is weaker on, I was participating in MxG meetings personally around 2 years back. And I'd like to say at minimum that those experiences influenced my thinking at the beginning of this update. And I'll apologize. The reason I haven't been present at these meetings is for the last 2 years is my supervisor is the vice president of research, and he has a standing meeting with all of his direct reports at the exact same time as this meeting. And I know this group can't change, and he's not going to change. So I just try to follow from afar right now. But today was important. So I just jumped out of his meeting and came over. I think it's important that we improve communications between on an ongoing basis. Karen, you're a MEAB member formally. I'm a support person, but I'm guessing that MEAB members would be very supportive of increased communications between MxG and the group.
Thanks. Because otherwise you got a big burden. And the last part on the observation on these plans, I would say, just reading through what you have, it's the tenets of what every plan should have. So maybe the updates are just what we're doing in each one and how that would be a lot easier. Like we've designed 3 things here. We've moved these needles here. So just a little feedback for you. Maybe it's a
Oh,
good
yeah, like metric tracking essentially.
versus redoing the whole plan.
And each goal has suggested metrics. You know, that was definitely considered in the update. So that's a great idea, Joe. Appreciate that.
And yeah, and Joe, I really like your idea of increased collaboration between MxG and MEAB. So definitely we'll follow up on that. Shane, thanks so much for presenting. Would you mind popping your contact info in the chat just in case folks had follow-on questions?
Absolutely.
Great. And I wanted to take a few minutes for any kind of group announcements. I know Cinnamon had mentioned she had a question for the group. And she just posted in the chat. She said, can anyone recommend a tax advisor to understand how to manage personal and business tax liabilities efficiently? I'm working with a new majority entrepreneur and we have additional questions as we are refining his business plan. Yes, I looked through the MxG organizational partner list and known what folks' skill set is. One potential opportunity, Cinnamon, would be the MERC program that MTI administers. They have a database of consultants, and I imagine some of them might have some tax background. So I can put you in touch with Emily Braley, who actually I see Emily's on that call. Emily, do you think that might be a fit for MERC?
Yeah, certainly. I would be happy to look more into that. So please reach out. I can put my contact information in the chat too and set up any meeting.
Great. Thanks, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Any other thoughts on Cinnamon's question from the rest of the group? Okay. And any other announcements from folks' organizations they want to share with the group in the last few minutes we have? Events or elsewise? Don't think I'm seeing any hands. Well, great. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. A special thanks to all our presenters. We're not going to do this in December just due to the holidays, but we'll be back in January. So thanks so much, everyone, and see you in the new year.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So
Take care.